We go.
Can you hear me now?
I surely can.
Okay, excellent.
What's up, man? How
Um,
you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. How are you? It's wonderful to see you, and I'm glad. I mean, I don't know how you and Janine are doing it all, so I will try to hit all the points.
Most definitely.
There's a lot of exciting stuff, and I will say thanks so much for speaking with us at WOUB, NPR and PBS affiliate in Ohio, where you've got Millennium, I'm a millennial, tour, two Millennium Tour shows coming up in Cleveland and Cincinnati. And I just heard today from Janine that you have a new single and video for the one that's releasing on the day of the Cincinnati show.
So
So,
that's not where you at. Are you there?
no,
Where?
I'm in Cleveland right now, but I live in
Okay.
Dallas and I go back and forth. It's a long story.
Uh, oh,
So,
okay. 'Cause I was gonna say, come to the show so you can, you know what I mean, get the
well,
real, you know what I'm saying,
I
in
would
live in person
I would
show.
love to do that. And I was here when I was when you were in Fort Worth, but I'm going to Nashville on the 27th, so I might be able to hit Memphis on the way out.
Okay. Yeah,
So
pull up if you can, and I think you would love the show. I mean,
I,
it's
well,
really
yeah,
just amazing display of that era in time, and because we're, in such a like a real time tumultuous time. I don't think people are correlating the two, but some of the greatest music happens and some of the greatest moments happen when the country is in turmoil. So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I agree with you. And okay, it is recording. I just want to make sure. Woo! I
Okay.
have my backup going too. But I'm so glad you said this because I was like, I hope this isn't too deep for him. But I love the premise of the Millennium Tour and its success, I think, owes to more than just just nostalgia. Because I was
Yeah.
thinking about, from my vantage point, the late 90s had so much excitement about the new
Mm.
millennium and music videos of every genre, whether it was R&B or hard rock like Garbage. I was talking with them about their music videos then, had outer space and they were so futuristic, and Star Wars came back. And so I just feel like going into the 2000s, there was so much optimism and confidence, that we
Yeah.
were on this permanent path forward with progress and technology and society. And then, in this last decade, there has been setbacks, certainly the pandemic and global conflicts and affordability,
Yeah.
so a growing number of people are struggling and I think losing hope. And so when I'm watching the videos of the Millennium Tour, I was taken aback by how I was reminded of that spirit of optimism
Mhm.
in the new millennium. And
Yeah.
and so as someone who launched right as that new millennium launched,
Yeah.
what are your memories of how you felt going into the new millennium, how you shaped the culture, and what your objective is with this tour?
Yeah. So for me, optimism is definitely one of those words that I lean on because, and lesser on hope, because, you know, really realizing that your attitude really shapes your world, and not all of the time in my career particularly have things, always been so positive, you know what I'm saying? But optimism is like a suit that you can put on to kind of, shift and change what's possible, and it's so cool, now being able to step back throughout all of my experience in 20 years, 20 plus years, and being in entertainment, how optimism has always been a conduit to, me landing in places that I'm actually meant to be.
Mm.
And, I'm just so grateful and I'm in full gratitude to be one of the leaders of my class when it comes to, this new concept of mental health, self-awareness, to be a person that can lend my experience and it not be just like this perfect, cookie cutter experience of optimism. So I'm so happy that, along with my group and along with Bow Wow and along with my peers, that we're able to still create that place for all the people that grew up with, our music to come out and relive those moments. And, I always speak about nostalgia and how powerful it is because sometimes, people don't really realize creating, like reliving a moment and creating a new moment, how powerful that is to remember the past and to also be recreating the future. So I'm so happy to be, one of those few artists in this time to be able to be positive and have optimism to thrust forward and still, make the focus about being positive and being excited and it not just being a moment in time.
Mm, mm. Ooh, I got goosebumps as you were saying that. So, I did want to ask, before we get into the whole tour, um, do you have any special memories or connections with Ohio, beyond sharing the letter O and your new single coming out when you're playing Cincinnati?
Yeah, well, Ohio is a special place for music. I always think about the Ohio players. I always think about, the other cities around it. And, Bow Wow, he's from Ohio,
Yeah.
and a bunch of other, famous artists. I could think of Bone Thugs and Harmony coming with the melody, you know what I'm saying? Introducing that into rap. Ohio is a special place, and the people too. The people are just amazing people. So yeah, I can't wait till we get there. I can't wait to play there. Yeah.
Yeah. I was really struck by how packed this show is, with the lineup. And I watched a little recap of just a snippet of everybody. And man,
Uh-huh.
right from 6:50 with Amory, like it's all killer, no filler.
Right.
Some of these, acts don't tour that much, like Crime Mob, Knuck If You
Right. Right.
Bust.
Right.
Such a classic from my adolescence, but I don't really remember them touring.
That's
Um,
true.
can you give a little primer on who's joining you for the Millennium Tour on this leg and what excites you about them?
Yeah. So what's been really, really cool about the Millennium Tours, um, is that it's a playlist, what I'm saying, and adding some of these additions like a Young Jock, like a Crime Mob, like you said, like a A Marie, because she definitely has some of my favorite songs of that time in that era. B5 is joining us. Scrappy is even coming out. He is on Nuck If You Buck, but he also pops out on Bow Wow's um set. He's been coming out, and he's been having a slew of guests too. We just were in Atlanta, um, the past weekend, uh, not this weekend, the previous past weekend, and so many people came out. You know, um, we was just in Florida this weekend, so we had Young Miami come out. We played this little rendition of Luke. So it's so cool to be able to go through the cities and have people pop out. So this is a different, I would say, playlist before all of the other Millennium tours. So it's so cool to be able to, invite other people out and kind of give you a different playlist, different performance. Franchise Boys was out there with us too. So we definitely gave a little bit of that Atlanta, Southern hip hop era feel. So yeah, it's been amazing. It's been amazing.
Yeah. Well, and I can't believe that you're backflipping at every show. Um, Because I'm like, I saw it from Janine's angle, like side stage, and I'm looking at those, spotlights and how bright they are. And so the thought of doing backflips with those going on. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to know, how do you prepare for a backflip in that moment, in that rush with all those lights? Like what do your body and mind do to make it happen and live to tell the tale and keep dancing?
Well, I will say, there's something special about um, going back into your career, performing your old songs, and remembering your prior self. And on this tour, I actually start kicking the backflip off in LA, the LA show that was like our homecoming show in LA.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna backflip again. And I remember that I stopped backflipping when I went solo from the group. So the backflip Omarion era was really from my group from B2K. That's when I was backflipping every show. There was always a moment in the show. And, in LA, I was reminded like, yo, I need to bring that vibe back. I need to bring that energy back. There's a few artists that I'm seeing is kind of coming back. What's my man name that he wears the one jumpsuit? He's backflipping off the piano. He
Oh,
he did
Benson Boone.
Benson Boone is backflipping. I said, nah, hold on now. I got to bring my backflip back. So, I've just been kind of reliving this moment and I guess it wouldn't be I guess some people would think it wouldn't be smart at this, mature age to continue to backflip. But when you got all your faculties, when you're, keeping your energy right, I'm working out every day. These knees are working. Okay, this 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 body is working. So, of going through, just reliving these moments, I had to bring that back. So,
Yeah. Well, I'm
yeah,
always sensitive about referencing people's ages in entertainment. Like, but I'm like,
yeah,
I don't really know of any other people in their 40s, which is still young, but you just don't really
yeah,
see men in their 40s doing that. But it does
exactly.
really, show. I mean, it's kind of to your point about the premise of the Millennium Tour, pushing the boundaries of what you think is possible.
Yeah.
And I mean, it also speaks to how well you've taken care of yourself. And I thought,
Come on.
uh, like so many of your peers in the 2000s, I had this whole thing about how being a hot mess was kind of in vogue in the 2000s. Um,
Right.
and I don't really remember any of those moments with Omarion, and it pays dividends over time.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Well, my friend Robert Coleman, shout out to him, in Dallas, he saw the Millennium Tour down in Fort Worth, and he asked a really great question that I'm eager to know as well. He said, "What was the hardest choreography in a music video for you to learn, and how long did it take you to learn that versus, kind of your average learning curve for choreography?"
That is a good question. You know what? I don't remember. I don't remember. Okay, I'm sorry. I take that back. Um, There's a video called Get It In that I had. And if you look at the choreography, there's this one part of the choreography where I'm literally singing upside down on my head. So I would encourage you to go look at this choreography. This was probably the most difficult choreography. I believe we were coming off of You Got Served, and it was just a whole era of dance. And I was kind of just reaching the ceiling of things like what could I do? So also in this video, the ladies are folded up almost like a chair with their arms and their legs, and we kind of pick them up like weights. So that was the probably the most difficult choreography that I had to learn. Um, like why was I on my head for why was I on my head singing upside down? And I made all of the dancers do this too. And then we like popped up with this like really cool knee slide from upside down. So yeah, I think that and shout out to my choreographer Roro because I'm always pushing the boundaries, and that was like one of those moments that I was like, yo, we're gonna sing on or I'm gonna sing on upside down. This is not a
Wow.
camp trick. So that was
Shoot.
probably the most difficult choreography.
Yeah. Whew. And I just saw that was the third album, the third solo album. So you kept upping the ante.
Exactly.
Um, well, I love, speaking of videos, fantasy, love that you have a proper music video with a, real production set, special
Yeah.
effects, like when you two are floating. Um,
Uh-huh.
because some industry people are saying, don't spend the money on a proper music video, just post videos of you, dancing in your living room or in your car.
Yeah.
But Fantasy has only been out a month. It's an independent release.
Hmm.
It's already gotten over 1 million views on YouTube. So I feel you're a compelling example of how music videos do still matter.
Hmm.
So I was wondering, what is your take on this argument? And given you'll be playing Ohio when the One video comes out, what's exciting to you about that upcoming music video?
Yeah, so with fantasy, and there's always a challenge, especially in the independent realm, like what do you spend your budget on? What do you, why is it important to create a visual outside of this, new niche thing of going viral? That didn't exist in my, core era. In my core era, we were coming off of $1 million videos and like really the allure of dreaming, that's what I feel like sometimes is missing. There's this AI exists, you know what I mean? So it's cool to have some AI, but there's this like realism that I feel when you're intentional with what would be considered throwback music video concepts and budgets that sometimes gets lost in the realm of business and support these days. I think that having a proper video serves its purpose in the catalyst of the dreaming element of music.
Hmm.
Like there's always this visual component that people, forget is important to sell the music. So for me, I'm so happy and, shout out to, my label, Create Music Group, for supporting me in my vision and also to the director, Kimata, to create, these vignettes and of what the song truly represented, which is a fantasy. And I feel like people don't fantasize anymore. It's like, we want to kind of get things now. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it's important for artists to always have an allotted budget for a video to promote the song. This is truly, truly important. And I don't think that will ever not be the case. Even if you don't have a budget, you still have to create a world for viewership and places like YouTube. So, to answer that part of the question, I think it's really, truly important. I don't think it's really an argument. I think it's an argument of budget. If you don't have a budget, then get creative. You know what I'm saying? And go viral. You know what I mean? But for the video, the one, I'm so excited and ecstatic to show this because in the concept, I was inspired by the New Orleans second line. When they're going through the street and they're playing music, they usually do the second line when someone passes away or they're, wanting to celebrate something. And I love this concept so much that I wanted to embed it into this video, the one. The video, is actually taking you through a few of my favorite places to go, which is Chicago, New York, and Los Angeles.
Hmm.
So we start the video in New York, and we're kind of going through these dance vignettes of things that represent New York, like the dance style Lightfoot. It's called Light Feet. And I meet this girl. I'm going through New York, and then she takes me to Light Feet, which is a representation of New York dance and culture. And then we go through there to Chicago, with some Chicago footworking, which is a representation of Chicago. And then we go to LA and we do some dances there. And there's also a line dance. We created a line dance for the one that I want the world to dance again. Dancing is such a joyous expression. I think again to what's going on today. I think I want to remind people that it's important to still dance through you know um I guess the maybe not so happy moments. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So and the one is also speaking to my personal life, and experience in love. If you're like me and you're a person that has experienced love on a certain level, understanding the importance of loving yourself
Hmm.
and you being the one, self-love, and then also finding the one and understanding that in relationships, you are truly, reflecting yourself. So the
Hmm.
one is this whole experience of finding yourself and finding yourself through love and dance. So I can't wait till you see it. I know that was a little long-winded, but I want to
No.
give you some context because I'm super intentional about, my videos and my visuals and why I do music. I do music to bring awareness to self, to love, to romance, sexual experiences, things that really truly bring the momentum back to yourself. So, yeah.
Well, and that's something I've always admired about you is that, kind of going back to, we were talking about the 2000s and how many young stars, you know, were going through difficult, hot mess periods. I've always admired that you are, from my vantage point at least, led with intention rather than impulse. And
Yeah.
our impulses are being preyed upon so heavily in this
Yeah.
era of technology. So I'm all for it. So I appreciate that context.
So, sure. Sure.
Um, I want to take it back a little bit for one older music video, going back to Icebox, because you've got this new TV series, and I'm like, Omarion has been cinematic for a long time, and that music video is a good example. And so I was wondering what stands out to you about making that video, and how did Solange get involved? Because that's so fun to see in retrospect.
Well, I definitely want to salute, the goddess and queen Solange. Thank her. I believe I've thanked her, but I want to thank her again, for pulling up for that video. Um, Shout out to my man Anthony who put the video together. And I mean, what a time in my career. I was 21 years old and, I was just truly, stepping deeper into, myself as a solo artist. I got to work with Timberland, which, at that time was, one of my just favorite producers of all time. You know what I mean? What a era, you know. That video was a representation of, the emotion of love and feeling not loved and being cold like we all go through after, a difficult breakup. Um, and yeah, I mean, that was just an amazing moment. Shout out to my choreographer again, Roro. We had that icebox where my heart used to be, expressing that choreography. Um, and also, still to today, one of my biggest songs. So yeah, that era was just, Donnie Einer, shout out to Donnie Einer, Lisa Ellis. Um, I remember that was the biggest check, the biggest lump sum of money that I received in the music business at that time, and I was 21, which was $1 million. $1 million don't sound like much today, but back then, $1 million. Oh yeah, I was up.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, your TV series, Wild Rose, you're not only starring in, but executive producing. And I've watched some of it, and there's a lot of action and complex emotions for your character, Rose, to handle in this double life he's leading. You've made music videos, you've starred in a blockbuster movie, you've been in a network TV reality show, and of course, reality is subjective, but how have those experiences shaped the direction you're
Yeah.
taking with Wild Rose as a producer?
Well, Wild Rose is a very special project, and it was a very special um experience for me as an actor, stepping back on the screen in a very intentional way, especially in the executive producer realm, because I haven't really EP'd a lot of things. Shout out to Deji LeRae and all of the people that at All Black that, you know, um, supported this coming together. I feel like moving forward, I want to be more involved in telling great stories. And Rose you know, uh, um, is an interesting character that, has gone through a lot of emotional turmoil being born into an assassin family. Um, and also I think it's the furthest from all of the roles I've ever played. The one in You Got Served, the one where, Fat Albert, you know what I mean? Like a lot of my other roles have never been this serious.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, I'm so happy, I would definitely encourage you to check out the episodes. We're on episode 5. But the cast and crew is amazing, and you guys will be seeing a lot more of me acting.
All
So,
right.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, Rose definitely goes through some hairy situations where I'm kind of like, what what do you do in that? Um,
Yeah.
so we're hitting on time here. I did want to touch upon you've got two albums coming out, one of your own,
Yes.
O2, and one the long-awaited B2K album. Because
Yes.
I mean, as I understand it, this is going to be your first albums that you guys have made since you were teenagers.
Which is amazing, and it sounds incredible.
Well, I was wondering, what stage that's in, but all of the things you're talking about with, facing yourself and growth, and going back to I mean, kind of to bring it home,
Yeah.
you guys have been through a lot. A
Yeah.
lot has happened since then in the industry. So how does, navigating that navigating of feelings as a man, I'm trying to encourage men to navigate their feelings and do the
Yeah.
things that you're talking about, but you guys, it's one thing to do it with yourself, but you have to do it with a group of guys that you go way back with.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess what I'm trying to think of how to phrase it. How has that experience been, you guys coming together and revisiting something that you haven't done since you were teenagers, and just all the that's a lot to wade through, I feel like, to get it
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, I mean, what we've done is have difficult conversations. And I think that as a man, it's important to, have difficult conversations. Like, what does that mean? It just really means, you don't always, have to, you can look at the bigger picture. You don't always have to harbor emotions and feelings, from the past. You can move on. And we've done a great job at taking control of our own personal narrative with having those difficult conversations. And to be fair, we've all matured, and maturity is, an important thing when it comes to growing in life. And that's what the guys have done. That's what me and the guys have done. I'm so excited that we've gotten the opportunity to even have a chance to go back in the studio and work again. And for everybody to pull up, especially on this tour, to have a moment, because there's a moment in the show where, everybody kind of goes through their journey and speak about their journey.
Mhm.
Um, and take accountability. That's another powerful thing that's been important is, you know, like taking accountability in life, and sometimes things happen and you don't even know, you hurt someone. So being able to take accountability has been a powerful thing, you know, um, that has really allowed us back into that space with each other and what we created as kids. You know, when you do things, as kids and you create a bond, it's truly up to you to mend that and to have the opportunity to like have those difficult conversations really brought our love back together and put it in the proper place. We're all dads, we all have kids, so we're all showing up for ourselves in a respectful and a responsible way. And if you would have asked me a few years ago whether or not like, this would be possible, I probably would have said no. But because everybody is coming to the table and, when we were kids, it was a lot of people in the way. It was a lot of people in our ears. There's a lot of things, just obstacles. And now as grown men, we've been, you know, all in the position to be able to take accountability and have those difficult conversations. So that has helped us. And it is now that we mends those things, it's coming out in the performance. Those kids that we were and having fun throughout our work, it's like it shows up on stage now. It shows up in our art. It shows up in, in the sounds and the music. So I'm so happy that because for a long time I was upset, and for a long time I felt like, yo, I don't, I take responsibility for myself. I don't need to, be in a group. I have solo success, but us coming back together has really shown me how important it was, not just for me. It wasn't just for me. It was for my fans, because of the way we broke up. We broke up like, it wasn't our plan. It was really the business. And then we separated and there was no more B2K. And it was like the fans felt that, you know what I mean? So to still 20 some odd years be able to, come out on the road and sell out shows it's truly an honor as a musician and as a person that really loves, I love what I do. I'm here purposefully. So, the purpose is just deepen and the egos and the attitude is lessened. You know what I mean? So I'm so happy and I'm so grateful to be able to be an inspiration to my peers in my era in that way. So
Well, that's a heck of a way to bring it home. So thank you very much. We so appreciate you speaking with us at our NPR and PBS station in
definitely.
Ohio. We're very excited for the Millennium Tour to head our way. I regret that I won't be here for when you're in my hometown. However, I do
Right.
think we can probably swing Memphis, and that'll be a fun crowd. So,
No. Pull up if you can, and I want you to see this show. I want you to see exactly what I'm talking about, especially with the interaction with the boys, and you know what I mean, because everyone knows how difficult, all the difficult things that we've been through. And, it's looking like we definitely want to do a biopic and really truly tell our story and, our separate stories. Raz was living in China for 7 years. I was off doing my solo thing. It was so much going on with us, but, we reigned supreme. We came back together and we did the impossible. So if we can do it, then so can you. You know what I'm
well, I'll
saying?
say I saw the videos of you guys on tour and I was like, I had underestimated how many things you guys waded through that were in public and I didn't want to retread all that. But
Yeah.
I was like, wow, like, they
It was
have gone
yeah.
through some heavy stuff. And I
Yeah,
mean,
it was
you could have fooled me with the harmony on the stage.
straight up. Straight up.
So hopefully Hall and Oates and some other the Eagles, all these other guys that are, old enough to be your dads will take note and they can,
Like,
you know, do the same
come
thing.
on. Come on.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks again. Sorry we ran a couple minutes over, but we'll be in touch. And good luck with opening night of the next leg in CLE.
Yes, and hopefully I'll see you in Memphis.
I hope to meet you in Memphis. I think that might be a song. Maybe it was Memphis. That's a Pam Tillis song. So maybe it'll be Memphis. I am wearing a Dolly Parton shirt, so
Swag, no, I peeped you. I see you see I got the Beavis and Butthead on.
yes, and I love your hat has is it I was like that can't be Metallica, Manhattan.
No, it's the low, it's the
Yeah.
font. Yeah.
Okay. I'm a
Yeah.
metalhead from Cleveland. That's why I've got the hair. So I definitely saw that right away.